Clearly, some things need explaining regarding Mr. Abrego Garcia's release. And if you've not been following that, we can't go into the whole, we don't have time for that. But Fox News and others that like to perpetrate falsehoods regarding how we on the left think about what is going on. I would like to clarify that for anybody who would like to know and make them understand why we're concerned, not just with this person, with this act in general. There are constitutional rights that have been violated, and the Alien Enemies Act itself, with which this was used, hasn't even been proven to be constitutional or valid to be used in this case. But let's just set that aside and say, even though we're not at war, and even though the president, who was supposed to declare this to all public and any persons who might be involved, particularly Venezuelan people, if they're the ones that you're calling Tren de Aragua, this announcement needs to be made public to all people before, not signed one night and have them whisked away the next day in a rush on a Saturday when courts would be delayed. So if you're doing things on the up and up, that's not necessary, number one. Number two, I don't think that any of this behavior fell under the Alien Enemies Act. Number two, and even if it did, and we set that aside and say, fine, the Alien Enemies Act can be used, that act does not permit the way it was used. It permits people to be held. It permits people to be imprisoned for a period of up to 3 years, or as is necessary to protect the people of the United States. It requires that there is an invasion currently going on, or a war, never been used in a non-war time by anybody else but Trump. But they planned this prior to. And the fact that they announced this prior to the him taking office, okay? So this was on the campaign trail. We're going to use it. It's a nice thing from 1798. He talked about it. So if this was an invasion, a true invasion, okay, these people couldn't have been here for years prior to this happening, like Mr. Abrego was for 10 years, having never been arrested for anything criminal, but having been suspected of being a gang member based upon a hat he was wearing, Chicago, and also upon the testimony of an ICE agent who, by the way, had been fired from his police department, and his word was not considered any that could be used in court by the police department that fired him, but he was later picked up. He was okay for ICE. I think there's a lot of people, in ICE right now that aren't clearly top notch people, and some that probably are, but I can't really go along with anything that I'm seeing right now as far as covering your face and snatching people off the street. Put that aside. Insurrection Act, all of that's okay. We're going to, like the court hasn't objected to that. But according to the Fifth Amendment, okay, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in casing arises in the land or naval forces, basically, that kind of thing. Okay, let's skip down to the main part. They can't be like double jeopardy. You can't try somebody for a capital offense twice. That's double jeopardy. You can't do that. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So this says no person shall be held. This starts out with no person shall, okay? This doesn't say no citizen shall. no person within the confines of the United States of America shall. Okay, so we have not just deported people and put them outside, which according to the Alien Enemies Act, which is what was done, unless they decided that they needed to be in prison for some action, some crime that they had done. And even in that case, it had to be heard before people, and then they could imprison them here in this country. Never in any of these circumstances are people allowed to be taken to another country and imprisoned in a torture prison for life, no less. People have died, about 300 people have died since that prison opened in 2022. And keep in mind that these are young people, generally these men between the ages of 14 and whatever. We see them because of the propaganda videos that Kristi Noem and the Republican congressmen, they each got into the prison to do their little propaganda. She did her video, which cost us $18 million in put in campaign that they have to put that video out, plus $6 million to film it. So I know we're being careful, plus $6 million to house all these people. All of this is costing the taxpayer a lot more money than it should be, and this is all just a ruse. But let's continue on with constitutional rights that have been violated. According to the Eighth Amendment, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. So, I don't know what would be considered cruel and unusual, if not being confined in a foreign prison for an indefinite amount of time, in which 300 people have already died of natural causes. And reports have come out, and not confirmed, but enough of them have come out, that when people die of natural causes in the prison, they get put in that cell that they came from, and their bodies will stay there until they start to smell too bad and then be taken out. And that's kind of a warning. Don't act up, because you too could die of natural causes. All right? So, cruel and unusual punishment, another right violated. So let's move down to the 14th Amendment. And remember, we've ignored part of that as far as insurrection goes regarding Trump's involvement and the J6ers, and they were prosecuted, they were released. We don't really have a true adherence. Like we don't care about these so much unless they help us, if we're Trump and his administration. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, period, semicolon, nor shall any state deprive any person of life. Okay, let's read that again. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So we violated, Trump's administration, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, they violated these people's 5th, 8th, and 14th Amendment rights, as well as gone against the purpose and use of the Alien Enemies Act, under which people are still entitled to be heard, to be notified. When, according to the Alien Enemies Act, and you can read it, it's quite lengthy, but I have read it, they're supposed to be notified in writing that they're required to leave. And then if they haven't left, they will be made to leave. And if there's anything that they have done that is prisonable, they can be imprisoned here for the period of up to 3 years, or which time is necessary. They are entitled to due process. They are entitled to their possessions. They can gather their possessions that they had here and take them when they're out. And keep in mind, the Alien Enemies Act was 1798. So when you were deported, you weren't taken out of this country on an airplane or a train or a ship or whatnot. People were just put probably by horseback, or, hopefully they left of their own volition, but if not, put outside. Okay, you're on the other side of the border. It could have been the one over here, or north, south, whichever border. Never was it intended for people to be loaded up and taken to a country under dictatorship and sent to a prison which is being investigated by civil rights and humanitarian groups all over the place. It's ridiculous. It is unconstitutional. That's why we're standing up for it. Mr. Abrego is just an example. If this is allowed to happen to one person, then they can redefine who the enemy is, and it can start happening to more people and more people. And if a mistake happens, and an error or administrative error, and the precedent is set that, well, oops, but we cannot get them back, then that could happen to anybody. Me, you, any person anywhere in the US who gets mistaken for anything. So, this is why this is important. We are not wanting gang members to, reside and wreak havoc all over the United States. That is absolutely false, absolutely untrue. And if these people have committed crimes, which if they have, they should have been convicted and they should be in prison and really easy to find. But if they haven't, and in this case, it's been shown looking at records that something like 74 to 75% of the people, the Venezuelan people who were sent to the prison in El Salvador for life to the torture prison, had no criminal record. Okay. So just their determination, these people at Fox News and everybody that's supporting Trump right now, what they're saying is we trust them, just like we did Musk with the entire government and everyone's information and national security. We trust them implicitly. If they say it's right, it's right. Well, I don't think so, and that is not the way it works, because you can have people in there like the barber and the makeup artist who clearly was not meant to go there, and countless others. They don't want him back because they don't want him talking and telling people. And this is all about setting up fear. The economy, which will continue to get worse and worse, that's part of the plan. It will get bad. The economy will get worse, and people's attention will be focused on that, and there will be fear and upset. And this is another fear and upset. And that's what it's meant to be, to cause fear and upset. So let's just be angry and not fearful, and move ahead in truth and not lies. And thank you if you watched it to this point. I really do appreciate you, and I'll do some more on this.